Hello, dear friends. Good morning and welcome to the SSVA and Kardec Radio. Welcome to the friends who are here online. Welcome to everyone who is here presentially. Thank you for joining us. We hope that we all can feel the blessings of the loving presence of the spirit doctors, nurses, and therapists who have been here for much longer than we have, preparing the soothing environment through which we all nourish our souls in both realms. Before we say our initial prayer, dear friends, let us ask our dear John to read an inspirational message for us by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier to inspire our hearts and souls. Thank you, John.
Good day, my friends, and welcome to the Spiritual Society of Virginia. And as Carol said, we always open with an initial message. Today's message comes again from Emmanuel, but from the book, The Way, the Truth, and the Life. It's number 144, and it's entitled, What Do We Have to Do with Christ? The New Testament quote is from Mark chapter 1, verse 24. What do we have to do with you, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God. Then Emmanuel writes, it is a big mistake to believe that the Divine Master finished his work on Calvary. Jesus continues to walk in every direction in the world. His redemptive gospel is triumphing little by little on the terrain of human hearts. This fact must be remembered, for evil spirits are trying to repel the Lord every day. Here, the evangelist is referring to the evil spirits that took over a man's body. However, such infernal intelligences continue to dominate vast organizations on earth. In the political arena, for instance, which was created to maintain the principles of divine order, they appear under the names of discord and tyranny. In the area of commerce, formed to establish fraternity, they appear under the names of ambition and selfishness. In the religion and science, which are sacred organizations of universal progress, they answer to the names of pride, vanity, dogmatism, and sectarian intolerance. It is not only the human physical body that can suffer obsession by evil spirits, human organizations and institutions suffer much more from it. And when Jesus draws near through the gospel, people and organizations quickly ask, what do we have to do with Christ? That is, what do we have to do with the spiritual life? It is necessary to be on the alert in the presence of such subtleness, for the enemy also infiltrated the circles of evangelical spiritism, dressed in the glistening tunics of false knowledge.
Thank you so much, dear John, for this inspirational message. It is because of the Christ, through the mercy of God, that we gather here today, and to thank God for the privilege of having this opportunity of facing no impediments, of being physically or virtually present in the circle of prayer. Let us elevate our thoughts and unite our hearts in vibrations of deep gratitude. Let us visualize the Divine Master entering upon the ambience in which we find ourselves, be it either here in the Spirit of Society of Virginia headquarters or in our very own homes. Let us visualize the Master with open arms, emanating love, emanating hope, emanating compassion, emanating understanding, and telling each and every one of us, God believes in you. You are a child of God, reborn on this earth to love. It is with this loving intention in our hearts that we thank God for our reincarnatory plan, that we thank God for the blessing of Spiritism in our lives, that we thank God for the blessings of reasoned faith, that we thank God for the blessing of knowledge. But dear God, we shall not be selfish and keep it all to ourselves, knowing that thought is life. We visualize all of our brothers and sisters who have not been blessed with this life transforming knowledge being embraced by you. And we reaffirm our commitment to spread the good. We also visualize all of our brothers and sisters in need of peace, and we reaffirm our commitment to be peacemakers ourselves. We visualize our brothers and sisters victims of addictions, and we pray so that they are showered with love. We visualize our brothers and sisters in prisons, be it of a physical nature or emotional nature, or yet spiritual nature. And we visualize your embrace, setting them free. We also pray for our earthly home, thanking you, dear God, for bringing Master Jesus to govern our planet, and with much gratitude in our hearts for the gift of this most special reincarnation, we ask you, God, Master Jesus, and the beloved mentors, for permission to begin our study this morning. And so be it. So we are going to invite the children and the teens in a moment to join Miss Daisy and Miss Luciana for a very beautiful and inspirational class as we study and nourish our souls together.
Não vai, que tá dentro do filme.
One second, friends, as we take care of the technology. Technology is a blessing from on high, allowing us to spread the good news in all directions. So 1 second, as we spread the good news with our friends from afar as well. Yay, we made it! And the good news is on, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. We made it. All right. So today we are going to study a very important topic. A topic that we often take for granted because it's so much part of our lives that we don't even realize how important this gift is. And this gift is the gift of thinking. Did we know that thinking actually matters because mental matter is matter? Did we know that there is no such thing as, oh, we are just thinking? Because the expression, our life is an open book, is actually a real one. Because as we think, our minds project our thoughts forward, and other spirits, be they incarnate or discarnate, can literally watch our mental Netflix. And the thing is, this Wi-Fi, the mental one, is always on, and it's always on public mode, believe it or not. There's no such thing as private mode when our mental Wi-Fi is concerned. So what we think is not only our business, but whether we like it or not, it's everybody else's business because they can literally see and feel our mental emanations, or what Kardec calls thought forms. In the depiction we see here, this is taken from one of Andre Lewis's beautiful books, which Paloma will tell us more about later, so don't worry, hold your horses. Paloma will quench our curiosity in a few minutes, but the book that Paloma will tell us about is entitled Sex and Destiny. And the depiction of the woman that we see on the screen is a woman named Marina. And she is, if we look at her from the outside in terms of her appearance, she looks beautiful. She looks very proper, wouldn't you say? She looks very polite, very elegant. But on the inside, she is projecting quite interesting thought forms. Her Netflix shows us a very exciting movie there. Thank you, Paloma. Thank you so much. Her Netflix, her mental Netflix is showing us quite the drama there, right, Paloma? She is in love with the son, a son of a family named Gilberto, and the father and the son at the same time. Gilberto and his father. And in her mental Netflix, we can see the drama, how she feels conflicted between the father and the son, and how she feels guilty. And while on the outside, it may seem that she's just reading, just chilling, just thinking, whatever, if we are able to attune with her mental Netflix, we see that mental matters matter because she's experiencing a great internal conflict that is impacting not only her, but everyone connected to her. So let us understand more about how our mental Wi-Fi and mental Netflix operates. Because whether we like it or not, our life, our mental life, is indeed an open book. So we better know what we are writing on those pages because they are visible whether we like it or not. So we learn from Emmanuel, dear friends, that thought is life. Why? because every thought that we emit is a living force, a living message, a living 7D, because 3D is not enough. 7D image, right, dear Lucy? Lucy's already learning about that. Dear Lucy, welcome, dear baby. Yes, so we are projecting a 7D series of movies every day, and they are living images. This is why we call it 7D. The mental technology that we have at our fingertips is much more advanced than Steven Spielberg's technology. Steven Spielberg would be jealous of us if he only knew. So how do we know that these are living forces? Because Kardec tells us in the book The Genesis, chapter 14, item 15, that the thoughts that we emit are of an electromagnetic nature. Carol, is that all of them? Or maybe just some of them? Right, John? The matter is, dear friends, it's all of them. And what does that entail? Because our thoughts are formed of electric particles, they literally pulsate like this. And because they are magnetic, think of a magnet. What happens when we have a magnet at hand? We attract other elements. So because they pulsate, they have a certain radiation to them. And because they are magnetic, they attract alike as well. So this is why we literally, dear friends, we will show you, connect mind to mind with other individuals. What kind of connections are those? They can be incarnate to incarnate, incarnate to discarnate, or vice versa, and discarnate to discarnate as well. I'm sure every one of us in this room has already experienced the following scenario. We were thinking of someone, really thinking of someone, and all of a sudden, boom, we got a text from that person, or we got a phone call from that person, or that person just knocked at our door. And we asked ourselves, my goodness, could they read our minds? How did this happen? They could read your minds. They got a mental WhatsApp from you. And the mental WhatsApp is even quicker than the regular one, because the regular one depends on human Wi-Fi. And the mental one only depends on the divine Wi-Fi. And the difference is the divine Wi-Fi never falls, never breaks. It's always on, and it's never on private mode, believe it or not. So if we really want to communicate, help those around us, all we need to do is think of them. Think positively of them. Tell them that we believe in them. Think of their divine nature, and they will get it. The message will truly come across. And the reverse is also true. If we have someone in our family, for instance, that we keep thinking, oh, this person is no good, this person will never amount to anything, this person this and that or the other, we are literally sending mental darts to them. Then we wonder why there is a war in our planet. It's because, beloved friends, the war begins within us. We are responsible for the exteriorization of a physical war. because the physical manifestation of a battle begins with the battle within. Anytime we think of others negatively, we are calling them onto a mental battle. So first, therapeutic question for us. Are we using of the mental matter that we co-create every day with every thought and feeling we emanate to be peacemakers or to be battlers? Where are we? Dear friends, none of us have to say the answer out loud. Please don't. This is an inner assessment, and the guardian angels are already here to support us. So let us ask ourselves, in what manner, bless you, are we using our mental matter, the matter that was given by God to us? Are we using it once again to be co-creators of peace or to be co-creators of battles? Because there isn't, beloved friends, such a thing as, oh, we are just thinking. It doesn't matter, it's just in our minds. It matters. Nothing is just in our minds. And universally speaking, there is no neutral position. We either think and feel or act for the good, constructively or destructively. There is no middle ground. Why? Because God is so good that God has allowed for us to be co-creators. And the first manner in which we co-create is through our thought, through mental matter. So each one of our thoughts is like universal clay that God's grant to us. And we, beloved friends, are divine sculptors. And with every thought, we can either sculpt the good or sculpt destruction. Oh, Carol, but this is too harsh. Dear friends, this is the universal law. It's God's creation. So let us continue. So now that we know that there's a mind-to-mind network, always, let us remind ourselves of the universal rules of operation of such a network. We know now that this network is always on public mode. So this young woman that we see in the picture, she may think, oh, I'm just at a coffee shop, chilling. I'm just thinking. No, she's not. She's creating living electromagnetic thought forms that will attract other minds to connect to hers, depending on the nature of her thoughts. So every time we use the divine clay to elaborate a thought, other minds that think alike automatically enter our network. Oh my goodness. Automatically? Yes. Do they need a password? Kind of. Let us show you the password in a second. I brought it here for us. In my magic bag here. I feel like a magician. 1 second. The password, dear friends, is our mental plugs. This one, let me see if I can show it to the friends.
Here, Carol.
Oh, thank you.
There you go.
On the internet too. Every thought that we emit contains a plug into it. The question is, What are our mental plugs? Because our mental plugs define who logs onto our mind-to-mind network. How do we know what are our mental plugs? We know it in accordance to the thoughts and feelings that we co-create most often. So let's do, dear friends, an inner assessment so we can feel what we are doing together. From the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep, what are our 2 or 3 most common thought patterns? Do we already wake up thinking, oh goodness, what a day. Oh goodness, what a life. Oh goodness, not again. The same old, same old. I can't believe this. My life doesn't change. If we think in this way, what kind of plugs are we co-creating in our minds? Plugs of destruction. Thank you. Plugs of despair. Plugs of sorrow. Plugs of resentment. And what kind of minds are going to log into our networks? The ones that share the same plugs with us. So are we victims? No, because we're the ones connecting to the destructive mindset network. Oh, Carol, please give us some hope. Yes, I will. As Paloma will tell us in a moment, it is possible for us to switch networks. You know, when we are connecting our very own cell phones to other networks, that our cell phone settings tell us select your network. You all familiar with that, right? The same occurs with us as co-creators. Every day God allows for us to go to our own settings and select our own network. We can choose to connect to constructive networks. How? By desiring to help others and wishing to benefit others more than ourselves alone, seeking and fostering the general good. This is a decision that our dear Claudio Nogueira from the book Sex and Destiny has decided to make. And Paloma will tell us about his shift of mental network in a moment. He didn't have to wait until he discarnated to shift networks. He made the decision while incarnated. And Paloma will share his case with us so that we ourselves feel empowered to make the shift as well. As co-creators, we are reincarnated to make this shift. So Claudio Nogueira is a very inspirational example, and Paloma will tell us all about it. Right, Paloma?
Yes.
Thank you. For now, before Paloma grants us all the hope of self-transformation, and we can't wait, we are going to discuss the case of someone, a real life case, of someone who purposely, willingly used her free will as a co-creator of God to mold her mental claim, her thought forms, her mental matter towards destructive purposes. Her name, dear friends, is Claudia Sabina, and she is depicted in the book 50 years ago, a real account of the early Christians by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier. We highly recommend the books by Emmanuel for our own inspiration and edification for us to nourish our souls together. But now, just as a teaser, we will share about Claudia's case. How did she willingly, and we stress the word willingly as a co-creator, decide to connect to the destructive mental Wi-Fi? How? Because as our dear Vanessa told us last week, she devoted her life to wanting to enjoy life more than others. Yes, she constantly only thought about herself, about having a good time. She woke up thinking about herself, about her desires, about her agenda, and she went to sleep thinking about her desires and her agenda. And she went through no excuse that prevented her from reaching what she thought was right only for her. This led her to commit many moral indiscretions. André Luiz in the book Nosso Lar tells us that we can ruin our reincarnatory plan, any of us, when we want to enjoy life more than others and when we commit moral indiscretions. What moral indiscretions did Claudia commit? She was married to the mayor of the province, but she decided she wanted another man who was also married because they had a previous relationship before. And she was not happy that she was married to a very prominent man. For her, she had to have things her way. She also thought that she had to destroy the man's marriage to take him back. She had no qualms about creating slander. She could not recognize the blessings that God granted her. The stable marriage, the good financial situation, the comforts of her material life. She didn't see the good. She only saw what was lacking. She had an attitude of pessimism rather than an attitude of gratitude. And this is why she felt entitled to commit many moral indiscretions, including destroying a family. So, therapeutic question for us. Do we have an attitude of gratitude? Or do we wake up every day thinking only of what we believe lacks in our lives? Because if we foster an attitude of pessimism, we better be careful. We better reassess because very likely we're going to enter the universal destructive Wi-Fi. Other minds are going to connect to us. And little by little, we will give in to moral indiscretions. Oh, Carol, but we don't do that. Well, when we are jealous of others, even in thought, we are doing that. When we go to work and see a coworker and say, oh, that person again, can't stand that person. The person's tone of voice, the person's behavior. Oh, that person drives me crazy. Or we go to the center and we say, oh, that person's accent, terrible. If I could, I would do everything differently. Oh, the center's so small. Oh, I don't like the wallpaper. If we are just thinking that, we are entering the destructive network. Luckily, it's just as easy to shift. And this is why Paloma and I are doing this study together with all of us here. Right, Lucy? Lucy is participating very much as well. Thank you, dear Lucy. Yes, so How do we plug into the destructive network? It's very important for us to know so that we can avoid it. We learned with Emmanuel last week when Vanessa taught to us that a big mental plug is a pathology of the soul. The pathologies of the soul are mental plugs that automatically connect us to the destructive network. Claudia's destructive mental plug was the plug of resentment. Why? Because her unresolved emotional baggage led her to revenge. The fact that she could not let go of her quote unquote first love led her to revenge. Why? Because she was unwilling to forgive. And her unwillingness to forgive led her to a mono idea. A mono idea is when the same idea keeps ringing again and again and again and again and again and again like a broken record. So if we go to sleep and we wake up thinking of the same person over and over again, we are obsessing ourselves. Obsession is a persistent negative influence. And because thought is life, we can create that influence towards ourselves. And because of her obsession that she created, she became spiritually blind. What do you mean, Carol? We mean that she could not see the blessings in her life. And that literally drove her out of her mind. How? Because she constantly harvested destructive thoughts and feelings, which led to destructive words, slander, and actions as well. So her lack of forgiveness drove a whole family apart, led for the daughter of the man she loved to be expelled from home and to be accused of a crime she did not commit. This also led to her tragic death and the tragic death of her son. Claudia literally created a war because of her undesire to forgive and her undesire to recognize, unwillingness rather, to recognize God's presence in her life. So let us repeat our therapeutic question from the beginning. Are we molding our mental matter towards being peacemakers or towards fomenting war? Claudia most certainly chose fomenting war without leaving her home, by the way. We don't need to be elsewhere to foment war. Oops. But was this God's plan for her? Of course not. Obviously, no. How do we know? Because we have a guiding model. Master Jesus, the governor of this planet. And he has taught us what God's plan is for all of us. What is it? It is to love. So, what was God's plan for Claudia? It was for her to learn to love her first love as a brother of hers, renouncing self interest. It was for her to forgive him for not marrying her, allowing him to be happy with the family that he formed. It was for her to seek the good in her life. Oh, I am married to a man who is very respectable as well, and who offers me everything I need. What a blessing. and she could have multiplied this blessing as well, but she could not. She did not. Why? Because she didn't have eyes to truly see the blessings in her life. The mental plugs that she cultivated with her thoughts, feelings, words, and actions only allowed for resentment to dominate her. And in such a scenario, she became blind. She could not see God's plan, God's providence, God's love in her life. So, final question to us as we pass the word to Paloma. Do we have eyes to truly see God's love, God's blessings, God's providence in our lives?
Thank you, Carol. We love these books because, you okay? Yeah, good.
Yeah, thank you.
Because they give us something very concrete to visualize and see how do we fit in that story. And we might look at it and feel like, it's so far from us, but that's our daily lives. Emmanuel Books and André Luiz, and we're gonna get into Sex and Destiny now with André Luiz. It's a soap opera. It's a page turner. If for anything you're looking for a book, just be like, I just want to read a book this weekend, quick. This is one, Sex and Destiny. It's not far from our lives. This is exactly what it is in our families. It's a lot of commotion, a lot of relationships that are unstable, imbalanced. And we read it and we think, oh, no. That, I don't know. André Luiz must be writing fiction. Oh, that's to make it bigger? That better? Yeah. It must be fiction, but it is not. In this case, we have two families that, of course, have had their encounters in previous lives, which we've all had. So if we look at our families today, our relationships, husband, wife, son, daughters, we weren't always husband and wife. We were not always sons and daughters and grandparents and uncle aunts. We've all been intertwined somehow. But what Carol brought at the very last slide is why? What is God's plan for us? Is it just that? Just we come here and have fun? Is that what it is? Most of us think, right, John? That's the reality. We say that in our planet, we are still very much closer to our animal ways than the higher spirits. But that's why we're here. We study. It's fine. It's okay. We accept it today, and that's why we're here to study. But we have to really think, knowing that we are creating these forms around us. So much so that in a different book, I believe it's in the Messengers, also translated, André Luiz can read it. He comes on a trip to the city and he sees clouds, like gray clouds, and he asks the mentor, "What is this?" He says, "Thought forms." Negative ones, of course, they're gray. And there were larvae like on this thought forms. So they are matter. And we have to be reminded, as Carol put it so beautifully, that we're constantly emitting and attracting at this very moment, all the time. And even when our bodies are resting, because our spirit's there, we're still thinking, our spirit is awake, we are emitting, it's not surprising that we wake up sometimes tired. And that's because during the night, our thought patterns and what we've been creating throughout the night weren't that great. And this constant thinking is creating thought forms around us, all around us. And in the book, now we're going into Sex and Destiny with Claudio, and we're not going to go into the story because I hope you're going to go read the book. It's a must. It's fantastic. For our friends that speak Portuguese, you can even see or hear the audio soap opera. It is great. It's professionally made. It's quite incredible. But we brought what André Luiz actually wrote because we cannot do better than André Luiz himself. He said, they come into Claudio's house where there's a lot of commotion happening, and they see these two spirits that are with Claudio. Claudio already have thought forms around him. Remember, this is not something that is being forced in Claudio because we remove ourselves from the process. Oh, the obsessors are doing this. No, because we have those mental plugs. We've been thinking all around us, and they are just waiting for a connection. And they come. And that's what happened with Claudio. He stepped in his own house, and the spirits were waiting for him, saying, come on, Claudio. Welcome to your own house, but it's also ours. And they bring him in. And they actually don't want André Luiz to come in. Huh? They're mad. They don't want André Luiz and the higher spirits to come in. They say in the book that the uninvited guest perceived that his victim, in this case Claudio, had given in to the suggestion and latched onto him like this. Hey, Claudio, you're thirsty. And Claudio's like, oh, I think I need a drink. It was a suggestion just to see, like, you know, when you go fishing, throw it in there and see if there's fish in the water. If there's a bite, they're like, okay, this is a good spot. We'll keep fishing right here. Claudio was that easy spot. They threw a suggestion, quick to hook him on. He said, a light touch at first, then an enveloping embrace. It allowed them to get closer, followed by a full embrace and reciprocal association. Meaning, Claudio had a mental plug, and the spirits were able to fully connect. Now that happened. It says both of them were integrated with each other in a perfect, extraordinary example of fluidic grafting. They were so interconnected that you couldn't say if the actions were now Claudio or Moreira. The actions that they were now so in tune that Moreira's thoughts went to Claudio, Claudio back, and now they were not in the constructive Wi-Fi. They were in the destructive. And there were many things that Claudio had in his thought patterns, thought forms that these obsessors were able to connect to. Not only the vices of drinking and other stuff, but it also brought back connections from prior lives, sexual imbalances. And that already being in Claudio's, spirit from prior lives, connected now with Moreira and friends wanting to have some fun, they're really putting stuff in Claudio's mind. Claudio has a daughter. She is adopted, so he starts thinking, oh, well. She is adopted. She's not really my daughter. What do we do? She is having a terrible time, Marita. because her sister Marina remember having the case with the son and the father, but that was also Marita's fiance. The whole thing is complicated. But Marita's in a moment here in her room, so fragile. She's crying. She locked her door. And the father's at it. Open up. What's going on in there? Saying he wants to console her. He wants to know as a father what's happening. But that was not what he was thinking. That's what he was saying, but not what he was thinking. I know, shocking. When I read and reread this part, I'm like, please, Claudio, let's maybe Andrea Luis skip that part. We don't want to hear. It's hard to hear this. It's hard to imagine that a father, at a moment that is crucial for the daughter, is having ideas that he thinks it's love. He's telling himself he loves her and that she's a woman now. And not only it's in his mind, connected to the obsessors, because they're feeding it to it. Oh, yeah, she's a woman. All she wants is love. She deserves love. And he's buying into it. There was a little conflict. Claudio, not totally, but it did allow. Look at what the spirits tell us. So interesting. He said, to us, however, this is André Luiz looking into the whole scene. It was not only their thought forms. So André Luiz can see the whole picture around them. He said the thought forms with their structures, colors, sounds, and corresponding movements that warned us about the libertine intentions of the animalized pair. It was also frightening to hear their voices in a dialogue clearly audible to us. So they could hear what Moreira, the obsessors, were telling Claudio, everything. They could hear how they were feeding it to Claudio. They could see these forms. They could see the colors. They could see the texture. And here we are thinking, when we sit and we're just thinking, that is our private world. But if we could only imagine what they can see on the other side. I could almost, like, André Luis, he's probably writing more about us, like, this is Paloma thought forms there. What colors are they? I don't know, but it's when you stop and think that they are right now in this room, the good spirits, they already know because they can see it. And thank goodness they can also treat us because we are here. We are not making a choice of being somewhere else, only thinking of our animalistic desires, but we are here trying to do something better. So thank goodness. So I thank the good spirits that are here looking at it and saying, let us help everybody that is here. So Claudio was in the struggle. And if you guys remember that we've been studying for now 2 Sundays in a row about pain, we really talked about pain and how pain keeps us a lot of times in check. It keeps us from this obsession and it keeps us from madness. Claudio was getting there because when you're thinking about a love relationship with a daughter, you must be getting, right? You're mad. You are losing your balance. And something really critical had to happen. Pain. Marita she was so distraught, tried to commit suicide, got in an accident, ended up in a coma. And that is the moment that shifted. It truly shifted for Claudio because he was able, at that moment of pain, extreme inner pain. He wasn't hurting himself. I mean, he was not the one on the bed, but he brought him to himself, to his full conscious again. And when we say that, it's not because he now was able to point fingers at others. He was actually looking at himself, a full examination of his conscience. And that's the moment that it shifted for Claudio. That's it. He didn't need to burn in hell. He wasn't condemned forever. The good spirits were not there saying, well, you made so many mistakes, my friend, that now you're lost. This is it for you. None of that. It's actually the very opposite. When they saw that opportunity in Claudio's heart, they were able to take that and bring in help. Claudio heard about Spiritism. Claudio started reading. Claudio starting his inner reflections. Not easy. Much easier for us to be sitting here reading the book and talk about it than going through what Claudio went through. When he is seeing now a daughter that was brought to his life for a reason, and instead of fulfilling it, he actually made it much harder for her, for him, for the whole family. The mother or the adopted mother couldn't get there. She wasn't able to make this shift, but Claudio did. And that's when we see at Marita's bedside table, or bedside at the hospital, not table, Claudio is studying and praying and changing. And guess what? When that happened to Claudio, it also happened to his friends. Moreira and team also changed. Moreira went from being an obsessor to actually helping keeping Marita alive. She ended up passing away, but he was hard working next to her. Like in a shift, the good spirits would come, give him instructions, and he was there working with her. It's fascinating. All he needed was that, I would say, a new mental plug, right, Carol?
Right?
That mental plug that was plugged to the destructive to unplug and plug to constructive. That's what they were counting on them to happen, and it did. So we have two things for us to wrap this up. Watch and pray. So critical for us. Watch who? Our neighbors, our friends, our colleagues, is that what we're watching? So pop for us on TV, yeah? No, it's watch our thoughts. We have them. We cannot pretend that it's like, okay, just they have those thoughts. I don't. I'm always positive. I'm always on the constructive. Okay, not so much, right? That's why we're seeing so many people during the pandemic, like really negative, because not only we were feeling the pandemic, but we also connected to the collective negative thoughts. So we watch. Okay, we recognize they come in, they go, they come in, they go. We recognize them, we're watching. And when something seems to stick with us, maybe trying to connect, we pray. We pray because that's when we call for help. We are allowing, the same way there are suggestions on the destructive, there are suggestions on the constructive. Where do we connect? The thought came. We connect here, or do we pray, say, oh, please, God, help me here. I'm having these thoughts. Help me make a better choice. And this is every day, all the time. God allowed us. The same way he allowed Claudio free will. Those spirits, Moreira and team, did not impose on Claudio. He chose to connect with them. We watch and pray, and we think positive. Optimism. We were here in a mediumistic meeting, and the good spirits came and said, from here on, we want you guys to work in unconditional optimism. And that was before the war in Ukraine started, right, Carol?
Right.
And we're like, why are they saying that, right? We think we're so positive and happy and optimism, but they took it to a different level, unconditional. And that's because they are so ahead of us. They knew we're going to need it. So when we look at the world, we say, God has a plan. We're not going to say we're not going to work to help just because God has a plan, but God's plan is for us to do something. Starting by constructive thoughts. Starting by us looking at people and having positive thoughts. Because as Carol said, our connections are also right here. Incarnate to incarnate, incarnate to discarnate, discarnate to us, discarnate to discarnates. We're all connected at all times. So what are we vibrating to other people? What are we plugging right now? We want to plug positive. I know that. Because God made us to be good. We are co-creators, which means we are supposed to love. That is a fact. We are here to love. I think that's why God made babies so cute. Because we look at them and it's impossible not to love them, right? You just look at them and we are immediately loving. We just forget that that's how we're supposed to be at all times. So friends, the call for us today is to bring awareness to our thoughts. That thoughts truly matter. They matter because we are constructing things. We are building it around us. And when we think of our lives and we're thinking, what are we building in our lives? Now we can really see our thoughts and how they are helping us build whatever we're looking to build. And this is not about material anything. This is not like, The Secret. You think about a car and now the car is going to show up. That's not it. Because there's some of that. But we're talking about building for immortality. What are we building from here to forever? He doesn't lose on us. God is with us at all times. His plug is there. It's where, are we trying to connect to God? He is there. He's just saying, just waiting. Go for it, Paloma. We're coaching you. We're sending you a team of people. There's SSVA team there. They're calling you. They're asking you to read. And we're like, oh, good spirits, not this week. This week, I'm going to pass on Andrea Luis because I don't want to face the truth. That's the reality. This week I'll pass on Andrea Luis and I'm going to go watch, something else. But God is just waiting, friends. So we will now move to the virtual passes. Let us visualize the images when we're listening to it. Visualize it, because above the Spirit Society of Virginia, there is a spiritual hospital. The doctors and nurses, they're here way before us. They already prepared where we were going to sit. There are equipments around the room. They're ready for us. They want us to listen to the virtual passes and just allow the connection to happen. Everything else is in God's hand. All right. Okay, so let us move to that. I will just make sure
Welcome to the Virtual Passes Room. Emmanuel, the spirit mentor of Chico Xavier, once stated that thought is life. Thus, we can create the healing mental state right here and now. In preparation for the virtual passes, we would kindly recommend the following. Be certain that you have a real need to receive passes. Do not use the room simply out of curiosity. Casual visits to the room will negate its future benefits when needed. When using the room, have gratitude and show respect as you would when visiting a physical spiritist center. During the passes, silently evoke God's protection as well as Jesus. Also pray to your guardian angel. Concentrate on positive thoughts, thereby avoiding negative ones. Breathe deeply, slowly, calmly, and confidently. Always be ready to pray. Let us begin this passes session by praying as our guide and model, Jesus Christ, has taught us with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who is in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Now, let us feel that small points of suffering, bitterness, sadness, anger, deception, disappear from your mind to not return. Like aged leaves that are shed from trees, let go of those feelings that no longer serve you. And gently, but most assuredly, discard them. Let the wind of life carry them so far away that they are unable to return and recreate their negative link. Little by little, your emotional tree sheds its negative feelings, becoming clean and ready for its renovation. Without the weight of those dead leaves, you feel lighter and are able to feel the gentle water of life now abundantly falling onto your physical body, spiritual body, and soul. This water cleans, disinfects, purifies, deconstructs, and tones all the cells of your body. Nothing can escape its renewing action. At the same time it is cleaning and moisturizing your body, this crystalline liquid satiates your spirit, eliminating affliction, anxiety, and unrest. Now within your heart resides a sense of calmness, cleanness, and well-being. Then the light of God emerges to warm and snuggle you, while caring rays penetrate your whole body and tenderly embrace you like a maternal hug, which brings comfort and safety to your heart. At this moment, great love warms your heart and removes the coldness resulting from any affliction. Now, your mind contains only feelings of joy and confidence. You are at peace and enveloped by a protective warmth. The heart of life offers you perfumed flowers. Then, with a grateful and happy soul, you gather their colorful petals that penetrate your whole being, restoring feelings and emotions of happiness, hope, faith, courage, and determination, helping you to regain the willingness to live. In addition to the perfume and color, nature also shares with you the best it has to offer, an infinite capacity for restoring its sublime beauty, even when struck by evil that appears to enact its end. Divine hands full of light gently overflow and spill over you like a golden waterfall of unspeakable and unknown essence. Little by little, your soul is impregnated with sweet happiness, allowing an inner renewal of the most noble and elevated purposes, that of progress and accomplishment. Showered by this sublime power, you deeply surrender to the donor of light, absorbing energy that now gives your life a new and blessed impulse. You called me, and here I am. What do you want from me today? What do you need? Ask, my son. Ask, my daughter. I am here to help. Now, ask your special request to Jesus, enumerating the problems and difficulties that afflict you. I listen to your request with love and attention. Now I count on your faith and trust in me to solve your problems. Go in peace. I am watching over you, and I will not lose sight of you. Believe in God and also believe in me. I will be with you every day until the end. Be happy. Many blessings.
Dear friends, we just want to say hi to our friends also on the internet. Kátia, Slavik, Sol Souza, Narciso, Betty, Rihanna, Gisela, David Dumas. Big kiss and hugs for all of you, dear friends. And for this week, I'm wishing from this SSVA team a beautiful week with beautiful thoughts. That's for our week. Beautiful thoughts. Thank you so much, dear friends, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.